Holy shit. God, that's such an amazing hype intro. What is up? I want to talk about Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus. I want to give kind of a comprehensive review of this game. I've put a ton of hours into this. I've beaten it twice. I don't see too many people talking about it or playing it, and this game is thoroughly amazing. I cannot be more excited to talk about it. I hope people check it out. It's kind of a budget title on Steam. You should definitely check this out if you're a fan of strategy games, if you're a fan of Warhammer. There's something in this for everyone. So this is probably one of the best 40K games that have been released this year, and there's been a couple good ones. That Vermintide one was quite good. Total War was quite good. There are some issues with it, and I'm going to touch on everything that I've noticed. I took some comprehensive notes as I was playing through it, so I'm kind of going to go through what I liked, what I didn't like, some of the bugs that I encountered, and then kind of a gameplay section at the end to tie it all back together. So, as you guys already noticed from that intro, the sound design and production on the audio is amazing. It is second to none in this space. The soundtrack, voices, voice effects, mixing, the unique vocal effects for every character. It is beautiful to listen to this game. It makes it so very unique and striking, the aesthetic that they have for this. The unique voices have a distinct personality, and all the characters that you're going to run into throughout your playthrough have their own unique vocal effects applied to them, and their own unique personalities and worldviews on some of the missions and text dialogue that pops up. So it is very consistent amongst all the different characters, which is very good. The characters kind of urge you into one of several endings, and it's essentially based on which side you chose to pursue more throughout the campaign. You do have the option to kind of ignore either of those paths, but originally I had thought it was just going to come down to, okay, do you choose this option or neither, as kind of a binary option at the end of the game, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was not like that. It had to, it was kind of quest lines and storylines and modes of play throughout that kind of cemented what my end goal was going to be and whose side I picked on. But overall, it's a top-down tactical strategy game, kind of akin to XCOM. I play a lot of XCOM here. Similarities in aesthetic, like the way the game is presented and in the blue and yellow moves that you have, but not much else. The characters develop over time, they have more and more unique abilities and options, but the progression isn't kind of down one tech tree. It's a lot more open and fluid and allows you to respec and totally change things at will. It is similar to XCOM in that the actual strategic layer of it is based around tiles and movement of those tiles and positioning on those tiles. But again, that's kind of it. On the strategy side, when you're in a mission, your actions are based around cognition points. So there's these yellow dots that you have on your bar. You start out with 4, and you can slowly upgrade them through mission rewards up to a max of 10. Now the cool thing is that the dots will carry over from round to round, and you essentially use them to move, to attack, to use an ability, to use an item, etc., etc. With more powerful items and abilities and weapons costing more cognition points. So the most unique thing about the entire system is that your turn isn't finished once you make your attack action. In almost every game I can remember, kind of a top-down strategy game, once you've taken your attack action that ends your turn, You can short move and then shoot, or you can shoot, or, you know, short move, use an ability, quick cut ability, and then shoot. But hey, your character's taking their action, their turn's over. In this one, you keep going until you run out of cognition points to do stuff. So you could move 2 tiles, get in range of one enemy, shoot them with the pistol, move 3 more tiles, get in melee range of a different enemy, swing your axe at them, move away from that guy, shoot another guy, move further to a console, activate that, get some more cognition points through an ability, and keep kind of just totally moving around the map and positioning everything. It's very unique and a lot of fun to play like that. It opens up a lot of strategic possibilities. So a cognition point can be used to allow your character to move, let's say 7 tiles away, and you spend 1 cognition point. As long as you don't move more than 7 tiles, it's still just that 1 cognition point. So in the example I gave above, as long as you don't move kind of out of bounds, you're not spending 1 cognition point to move, then another one to shoot, then a third one to start the move back up again, if that makes sense. There's ways to gather cognition mid-turn. There's abilities that grant it. When you kill an enemy, they'll kind of have a cognition on their corpse that you can loot to keep going. There's different towers in the map that you can move to that'll grant you more cognition. And coupled with the fact that you can carry CP, I'm just going to call them CP from now on, cognition points, from round to round, I can infer from that the idea is to build up slowly, to kind of ramp up and to unleash these kind of power turns. But unfortunately, and this is something I'll talk about more in depth near the latter part of the video, I pretty quickly found a way to almost break that entire system on my first playthrough when I was going in completely blind. On my second playthrough, with more refinement to that, basically after the tutorial, my first mission or the second mission, cognition was really not a factor anymore. I could play exactly what I wanted to every single turn, no issues at all. And that's that coupled with another issue with the game kind of being overall just too easy are some things I'm going to touch on. But outside of that strategic layer, when you're in a mission, you can upgrade your troops, review the current missions that you have available to you and the rewards that they have. You can peruse your unlocked items and your canticles, essentially kind of bonuses that you can unlock through different objectives. Review the items, troops, and canticles. If you click the first option on the top, which is kind of the tech that you have, everything that you've unlocked is going to show up here. And again, it starts with weapons, then I believe it goes to like support items that you can have in your backpack, then the troops, and then the canticles there. Now the cool thing about this is every playthrough is going to be different, and you will not be able to collect every single item in your playthrough, which in theory should lead to some pretty interesting metagaming and strategizing. Okay, which mission can I go to? Which one is going to give me the best rewards to further the playstyle that I'm having here? You'd want to compare the loadouts on your team with the mission rewards, etc. But again, that is almost completely busted, and that whole tiers of items, whole sections of items, support slots, backpack slots, almost every single minion is useless. You do not need them. And in fact, I found trying to use them made the game slower and less optimized. The canticles are pretty fun. They come with a unique challenge that has to be completed before you unlock them. So use 20 canticles during missions, suffer 100 energy weapon attacks, kill 5 bosses, etc. And the tech, you'll get that through random mission rewards, or in missions there's kind of options you can do in each room, and sometimes you'll happen across some loot. Hey, I want to loot this dead body, and it gives you a new piece of gear. The missions basically presents you with a column of the different tech priests that you're going to be interacting with on your ship, as well as their available missions. And as I mentioned above, each tech priest has their own goals and motivations, and these are represented in the missions that they offer, and to an extent, the items they reward. Some of the missions are random, some of them offer consistent rewards every time you do it. It's kind of a named quest, and it's fun to see that the kind of tech priest in charge of the Skitarii, kind of like the underlings of the tech priests, her missions generally have you rescuing and upgrading your troops. Another guy who's more concerned with the ship and how the ship is doing in orbit. Hey, we need more fuel, we need more ammunition to fund the war effort. His rewards are kind of tailored to that. It's kind of cool. Upgrading on the final slot at the top, the final option at the top, is where you'll go to spend your Blackstone. It's a currency you'll accumulate within the missions and as mission rewards. You'll upgrade your tech priest down 6 different tech trees. There is nothing stopping you from mixing and matching. There's no classes, no one gets locked into a role, and it's also emulated in the weapons and items your team can use. Nothing is locked or requires a certain tech tree or a certain rank in a tech tree or an ability to use. But you will not be able to fully upgrade all of your troops before reaching the end of the game. So you will need to make decisions on how to rank up the team efficiently. I've found that on average you'll have enough to level up all 5 or all 6 of your tech priests down 2 of the tech trees. Like, you'll have enough points to do kind of 2. It's kind of rank 20, 21, somewhere around there. So what you choose to do with that is your discretion, but you're not going to be able to max out the entire tree. One last thing to talk about is gameplay within a mission. So essentially the mission comes with 2 parts. One is you navigate from room to room, and this is kind of presented in a top-down view, and you just simply click on a room and a story event will pop up, and you'll pick one of 3 typically different options, read what happens as a result of that, and then move on to the next room. Each room that you visit will raise what they call a Necron awakening meter. So the Necron are the threat in this game. They're the threat on the planet, and they're slowly waking up. The Necron in the lore are this extremely old and ancient race. A lot of backstory to them, but essentially they're hibernating on planets throughout the galaxy, and something causes them to awaken. In this case, I think one of the tech priests who were on the planet prior had, he dug too deep and started waking him up. But essentially that Necron awakening meter will rise every time you go to a new room, and as that meter hits certain thresholds, the Necrons will get stronger. Once you visited 2 rooms, the meter is going to go up by 1 level, and now there's going to be more Necrons for the next battle that you have. Once you visit 4 rooms, I'm kind of simplifying it there, but once you visit more rooms, they'll reanimate faster, more enemies will spawn, etc., etc. So it kind of increases the difficulty as more of them awake, more of them reanimate faster, and it encourages you to kind of plot out your path. It's not optimal to visit every single room and every dungeon. You really can kind of, okay, do I have enough time to go here? That'll make the boss fight harder. Should I move here and just kind of leave this room unexplored to kind of just make a beeline to there? That's kind of cool. And the awakening meter is saved, and that gets used for your overall Necron awakening. So you have one within that mission, but as a whole, there's a meter that goes from 0 to 100, and once it reaches 100, you're forced into the final boss fight. And the longer you take within the individual missions, the longer you take in the individual missions, the more that full meter, the final meter is going to build up. Hey, it took you 10 turns to do one of the missions, so we're going to raise the final meter by 10. And again, once that hits 100, it's game over. Or, well, you're forced to fight the boss. So It's pretty interesting. It's definitely unique. The art style, the audio is superb. As a Warhammer fan, I like the Tyranids because I think they look cool and I like the lore for them. I'm not a big fan of the Skitarii or the Tech Priests at all. Playing this game made me a fan. I was super intrigued with the lore, the theology behind this stuff. There's even mention of the Void Dragon on Mars. There's a lot of cool things, and the text that the different tech priests have within the missions really lets you get inside the mind of what it's like to be a tech priest in the 41st millennium. It's very, very good. I cannot recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. You don't need to get the Omnisaya edition, which is kind of the deluxe one. It's very affordable. You should definitely check it out. Now, with that being said, I want to kind of dive into some of the bugs that I ran into. Obviously, with PCs, everything totally changes, and my setup is not going to be the same as yours, whatever. I play on a 2080 Ti with two 4K 27-inch monitors. So the issues that I experienced with things running off the side of the screen and the resolution changings may not even apply to you, but these are some of the issues I ran into. Anyway, the game will always revert back to 29 FPS at my resolution. Even after setting it to 59 or 60, it'll always flip back to 29. Within the options menu, you can set it to 3840 by 2160 at 29 FPS or 30 FPS or 59 FPS. And I would consistently set it to 59, and it would just inevitably keep falling back to 29. The intro text isn't the right size. It seems to be, well, it's not pre-rendered, but it doesn't take into account the game's resolution. So the text with the very first kind of intro cinematic, not the one introing to the game that I played for you guys, but the one when you click on new game, the text is super small. You really got to squint to make that out. The Necron dialogue, when they talk, will always require you to click twice, whereas every other dialogue and kind of text prompt that shows up, you only have to click once to progress. Kind of weird, but it was consistent. It happened all the time. I even waited thinking, maybe it takes a little bit longer for them to reach the end of the audio clip before I can just press once and move on. But every single time I had to double click on the Necron dialogue. Everything else was just one. So I made a note of that. The mission progress screen cuts off at the top. Again, maybe specific to my resolution, but literally you can't read it. It's just bleeding off the top of the screen. This also happens in the tech tree. The first and second columns are completely like the way the pop-in of the item window, it's to the left side. So your mouse is already on the left on the first or second columns, and the entirety of the text just gets pushed off the screen there. One of the Necron lords that you'll fight isn't voiced when you do his mission like all the other ones are. He's only voiced when you actually fight him. Whereas every other Necron boss is fully voiced in their mission and when you fight them, and if they have any other text, at other points in the game. This one, there's no text. There's no voice until you actually fight him, which just struck me as odd. The dialogue that characters have is also blocked, again, maybe due to the resolution I have, but once you complete a mission, you kind of go back and you get a debriefing screen where, but it's that mission screen, so you have the tech priests in that column behind it, but the dialogue they have, hey, we have a new mission to do, whatever, is completely blocked by the debriefing screen. Again, just really goofy. The most egregious bug that I encountered involved upgrading and leveling up the units. I wasn't able to replicate it consistently, but it did occur frequently enough within the 2 games I had that it eventually forced me to make a save before leveling up anyone, because it happened so much. Essentially, you would click on a unit, click to upgrade them, click on the upgrade that you wanted, click yes. Now normally once you've clicked yes, it will take you back to just looking at that unit, and they'll kind of do a prayer, and you'll hear a audio cue, and your unit's rank will increase, hey, they've upgraded in rank. Now what this bug would do, you would click yes and nothing would happen. Then you would click yes again and the window would close and it'd take you back to that first screen, but there's no audio dialogue. They don't do the prayer thing. None of your Blackstone is used. The unit's rank doesn't increase. Their attachment slots, which are tied to the rank, also doesn't increase, but you do get the skill, and the tech tree is further down as a result of that. So another part of that was you can basically, at whatever tier you're trying to upgrade, all the other tiers follow suit. So for instance, if I'm doing a level 1 for a tech priest and I encounter this bug, every level 1 upgrade is free. So I ran into weird situations where I had completely upgraded everybody for free, and it kind of broke the game even more, made it even easier than it normally was. Sorry, I don't know if any of the devs ever watch this or try to get reviews on this stuff, but I couldn't replicate it, so I'm not sure what caused it, but that was a big issue that I ran into. Minor UI issue: within a match, the 1 to 8 keys will show up on the items that they're attached to, but the 9 and 0 keys don't. Your final abilities at the end of like your character panel at the bottom, they don't show up, which was odd. If you load into your game and then you load back into that same game, or you load into your game, save it after a couple minutes, and then load into the game. Essentially, if you're in the game and then you load that file again, all of your tech priests will change the picture that they have, like it cycles through 6 different images. If you go to the mission screen and one of the mission rewards is a tech priest, you can go to the tech option in the top left, then go back to the mission screen, and the picture for that tech priest will change. And likewise, if you reload the save, the picture of that tech priest will change. It's pretty goofy. The final canticle doesn't have any text on it. It's just a question mark, so I'm not sure how to unlock it. I can infer and assume that maybe it's unlocking all of the canticles unlocks this one, but just worth pointing it out there. I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm not sure why it has nothing. Every other one says what the requirements are and what the name of it is. This one is just completely blank. It could be working as intended, but I wanted to put it out there. In the actual missions, on that kind of blue layer where you're clicking on the runes, you can see, and a tooltip will pop up for the Necron Awakening meter, what level it's at. It'll tell you what level it's at, but the different effects to the right of that don't have a tooltip. They'll pop up when you first hit that level. Hey, you've reached level 1, Necrons are aware of your presence. But you can't hover over that icon to get a drop down of what that is, or a tooltip of what that is anymore. You're kind of forced to remember what the pop-up was. It's not a big deal, but again, playing it twice, I really wanted a zip mode or a way to speed up the gameplay or kind of speed up animations. There's no zip mode, there's no ×2 or fast forward mode, or kind of let people just teleport around to finish their actions faster. which I would have liked. The 2 tech priests that have mission story that have those storylines don't change their dialogue once you actually complete their missions. You can go to the mission progress kind of hub screen to see how you're doing, and they have 2 text boxes that pop up there on the bottom left and the bottom right, but those text boxes don't change throughout the entirety of the game. I had thought, okay, as you progress more, maybe they'll say different things, or as I did this guy's quest over this guy's, maybe they'll change, or hey, I completed this guy's quest line, maybe it'll change. Those never change throughout the entirety of the game. So those were kind of the bugs that I ran into. Now, the final part that I want to touch on is the gameplay portion of it, and why I was saying earlier that the game is extremely easy and a lot of the options that you're presented with are kind of false leads. And if you're wanting to optimize the game, there's not a lot of options for you, not a lot of variety. It's best to go down this route, at least what I found. I beat it even on my first playthrough without any of my tech priests dying. I didn't come remotely close to losing a mission. There's no option for a different difficulty. Even after you beat the game, you don't unlock a new game plus or anything like that. The bosses were extremely underwhelming with the way that I had set up my guys. The final boss died on the first turn. Almost every boss on my second playthrough, when I had refined that kind of playstyle down, they died on the very first turn. Like the very first tech priest, I was able to move them all the way up to the boss, pop my buffs, pop the canticles I needed, and one-shot them. So that playstyle renders the troops totally useless, a lot of the items and support things totally useless, and the boss fights, except for a couple of them where the layout of the map forces you to kind of stagger and slowly move through it. All the normal encounters get done in one turn, the bosses get done in one turn. It kind of became boring, I guess was the best way to explain it. It got very rote. So it presents you with 6 unique tech trees, robust weapon system, support item, armor, troops, deployment, cost for those troops. So, hey, do you want to spend the money to deploy these guys, but that's going to lower the final amount of Blackstone that you get in there. The totally unique cognition system for movement and spending that on actions, but again, it's just all kind of pointless with how easy the game was. I was never challenged to dive into those systems once I figured out the way that I'm going to talk about later. If you guys don't want that kind of spoiler or that optimization that I feel I came to, you can totally ignore the latter part of this. But essentially, so the idea is to get as powerful as you can before fighting the final boss, and he'll show up at 75% done on that final meter, and you're forced to fight him at 100%. The longer you take within each mission, the faster that final meter fills up. So what we can take from that is we need to finish the missions as quickly as possible so that the meter fills up as little as possible, so that we have more time to do more missions, to accumulate more loot, more Blackstone, more upgrades, etc. So taking that to the furthest logical extent, you want to finish every single fight that you get into in the first turn, or at least by the second turn. You want to skip every other room except the ones that you're forced to go through to get to the end of the mission. And with those two things in mind, that's kind of where I came up with this build. But essentially, everyone takes the +3 movement and no opportunity attacks talent. The +3 movement, again, coupled with the way the cognition system works, just lets you move around the map at ease, get into whatever position you need to, run to the other side of the map and back, hit all those nodes, gather all the CP. Like, it opens up so many avenues with that extra movement, and avoiding opportunity attacks mitigates virtually any thought in terms of positioning. Hey, I can walk right up to this melee guy, get some CP from him, and then move away. It's not a big deal. Even the enemies that the Triarch Praetorians that kind of fall on you, and sometimes they'll get in melee. Hey, they're going to punish your ranged guys because they'll just jump in there. Hey, you just walk away with this talent. Breaks all of that. The next talent is one that makes the next weapon attack you do not cost any cognition points. So as we use stronger and stronger weapons that require more and more cognition points, this ability gets stronger and stronger. And with all of your cooldowns resetting at the start of every fight, you basically blow all the cooldowns the very first turn of every mission and kill everything as fast as possible. And not needing CP just guarantees that you'll be able to do that. The other thing, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, is while your CP does carry from round to round, it also carries after that mission. So the very first mission you do, the very first fight, you're likely to have 0. By the end of that one, when you gather all the CP for killing everything, you'll probably be maxed out, and then every fight after that, you're maxed out. Another talent that I got on everyone was everyone gets +1 cognition point at the start of their turn. Just makes it a lot easier to move and gather stuff. And then we basically max out the Dominus line, and then the rest of it goes into the Lex Mechanic line. The final loadout I went with was 2 heavy phosphor blasters. This is a drop from a boss, so you'll always get this item. And before we unlock the heavy phosphor blasters, there's just the phosphor blaster, which you get from a mission reward, and it's guaranteed to get that reward. So you'll always have these 2 items in every playthrough. You equip all of your tech priests with 2 of the strongest that you have, preferably the +4 Energia enhancers. And through the Dominus line, they're free to use. Normally they cost a cognition point, but now they're free to use. Quick disclaimer here, as I'm recording this video, they have released some patch notes which take that ability out. But at the time that I was playing the game and recording the footage and going through everything, it did not cost cognition points once you got this ability. So I like that they're making changes to this already. They have notes about a PTR coming up. So I'm curious to see what further changes they make. But yeah, at the time of recording, that ability made these not cost anything. You want to equip the legs from the Dominus tree and the gloves from the Dominus tree. The legs give you an additional +3 movement. The gloves give you an additional +1 energy damage, and we're using just energy weapons. And you'll get a cognition mechadendrite, and if you use that adjacent to an enemy or a panel, you'll gather cognition points from them. And again, we ignore opportunity attacks so we can move into melee range and then move right back out. But this loadout lets you start the very first turn of a normal mission where you have 0 CP. You get 1 CP generated inherently. You can send the servo skull out to gather another point, or if you get the upgrade to gather all the points in a node, you gather all those. You can move into a position to hit multiple enemies. You can gather CP with the mechadendrites if you need more of them. Pop both of your Energia enhancers for +8 damage. Use the skill to let your first attack be free. Shoot the heavy phosphor blaster. Likely it'll kill almost everything you're shooting at in that one shot. If not, a couple of them have likely died. You move into melee, you gather the CP that they drop from there, you move into range again, then you shoot with the other weapons, since you can equip 2 ranged weapons. And as you start with 4, but as you get 5, you start with 2, but as you get 3, 4, 5, 6 Tech Priest, 6 Tech Priest, putting out all this damage the very first turn, just it there's no challenge there at all. And the higher levels make this even worse, as you get the ability for your servo skull to gather all the cognition points at a node. You get the ability to gather cognition points for every kill that you do. You get stronger mechadendrites. You get more tech slots for basically maximizing out that loadout. And the final fight for every mission, you can pop the canticles that you have. The ones that I went with were max all machine spirit. So machine spirit is essentially each weapon has a number of times it can be used or has to be used before the machine spirit within that weapon is active. And the machine spirit grants that weapon on its next attack some bonuses. With the heavy phosphor blaster, it grants a bonus of +3 damage. So the final encounter where hey, you're gonna finish this and then go back to mission debriefing, so just blow everything that you have. All of your attacks deal +3 damage just from the machine spirit. You pop your energy enhancers for +8 damage. You're wearing the gloves for an additional +1. You pop the second canticle, which I always took, which was ignore enemy armor for X attacks. And the final number you could get, it started at 2, then goes to 4, then ends on 6. You ignore their armor for 6 attacks, and the final canticle I pulled was the one that got you cognition points. The final one of that gives you 9. So essentially you're shooting for 45 some odd damage, ignoring their armor. I think the final boss has 50 health maybe, or 40. Like, everything dies in one hit, and that's one character. That's the first character that you have doing that. You can replicate that 6 times. If at any point you're stuck on CP, again, that final canticle, you can pop that at any time to get 9. I basically never needed to use it because there was always a way to gather more cognition. All the tech priests had the same loadout. They had all that movement. They were able to get in melee and just gather more with the mechadendrites. You can further optimize it by swapping out those AoE blasters for the single target one. I forget the name of it. But essentially, it renders the game completely and utterly trivial. You finish everything on the first round, you get all that cognition, it carries over into the next one, all the cooldowns refresh at the start of that, you avoid the opportunity attacks, there's no strategy in positioning your units. It's so oppressive how strong it is that your melee builds, your troop focus builds, your support focus builds, your kind of there's a support healing focus one, and there's a support buff focus one. Both of those are useless. You don't need them. You don't have to worry about spending money to hire out troops to bring into the mission with you and worry about summoning them and positioning them and what their attacks are going to do. You just don't need it. And frankly, I didn't bring troops with me on any of the missions because every round, at the start of the round, it presents you with a screen, hey, do you want to summon in any of the troops? And frankly, it just slowed the game down even further, and I didn't need them. So yeah, I'll bring 3 dudes when I have the ability to take 6. I'm just not going to take 3 kind of troops. I'm just going to take my 3 tech priests and go because I don't need them. There is so much to like about this game. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I really encourage everyone to check it out, especially for the price point. It's so good. By itself, it's an amazing strategy game. If you're a fan of Warhammer, or you've looked at Warhammer, or you like the aesthetic of it, it's a no-brainer. This game is a complete home run. I was thoroughly blown away. The soundtrack is awesome. I'm glad I have the Omnisci edition to listen to the soundtrack. It's so good. I'm excited for the developers to keep working on it. I was super stoked to see the patch notes come out where they're kind of already tweaking this stuff. But yeah, just keep in mind that currently there's no higher difficulty. So if you stuck around this long and you listened to kind of this rant here, your mileage may vary on that. You'll get a playthrough or a couple playthroughs, and then maybe you'll be done. For me, I would love to spend more time with this game, but until those PTR changes come out or new content comes out or they kind of tweak some of the numbers on stuff, the way I play, wanting to maximize everything and kind of be optimal in power game stuff, I feel like I achieved that my first playthrough, and my second playthrough I just refined it, and there's really nothing left for me to do in the game. But yeah, get the game, definitely support the devs. I'm interested in this. Let me know how you guys have played it, if someone has had success doing some of the other builds and loadouts, if you had fun, kind of, hey, try a challenge run where you don't use this or don't use this. I don't see a lot of people streaming it. I don't see a lot of videos on YouTube, and there's not a lot of reviews on Steam for it. So I wanted to kind of put this together, hopefully encourage more people to check it out. Definitely try it. I can't recommend it enough. Just know some of the caveats that I mentioned before. Thank you guys. I appreciate you watching this. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Be sure to subscribe if you liked it. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment like I mentioned above if you played it or if you have some questions on it. I will definitely get back to you. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.